Okay.
Okay, we are here. This is Mary Costello from the Womb Room. That's the name of my show, David, the Womb Room, because
Wow.
we are it's sweet, right? It's welcoming, it's embracing because we are recognizing the space holding of the womb of the Great Mother. So we can find our bearings within the immaculate harmonics of that and continue to increase, to come into further resonance with that. I am so excited to have David Emery here. I don't know how to introduce you. Well, I could introduce you by the nickname I gave you now, the Great White Lion.
Oh, wow.
But there's just such a vast amount of things we could say. So I just want to say that I've spoken with you, David, I think with Sasha Stone and Elizabeth Monroy.
That's right.
And I just find in our conversations we're speaking in similar ways, but almost like we have the length and the breadth, of the topic. And it
Yeah.
creates an openness and it creates a reach that is just so much more fun than anything static or stagnant, So I'm really looking forward to our conversation. So thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you so much, Mary, for inviting me. Certainly the last time that we spoke on Elizabeth's show, there was a real good elemental connection, which had a lot of power, a lot of passion within it, about what we were talking on. And I'm very pleased to be here with you because I recognize you as a very dynamic and very powerful, in fact, almost pivotal energy in our particular time at this time. I hope I don't sound over the top on this, but you really do bring some wonderful pieces of the puzzle into our horizons, and I really appreciate being invited to talk with you.
Thank you. And this is going to be such a beautiful flow because the currency, I just want to speak about the currency of this time, what is coming to me in the last couple of, like the last day or two. The frequency of exchange. What is the frequency of exchange? Or excuse me, what is the method of exchange with, of humanity? It's always breath, it's the word. What is coming through now with this the sapphire currency, the sapphire stream is that it's the breath is of the correct currency, the correct method of exchange is love. It's just the movement of love. We are coming away from these conversations that are like battlegrounds, and we're coming into these conversations that are like just the way things grow, like spiraling, dancing, harmonizing, and even the dissonance, seeing the dissonance waves as just something to feel like movement. Still, it's still breath, it's still compassion, it's still this movement until the dissonance becomes resonance. So I just wanted to say that to kind of set the tone of this space.
I totally agree. I get entirely what you're saying. Yes. I
Yeah.
mean, the original of all that is, which is here with us now, and we are it,
Mm.
is perpetual motion and perpetual stillness. It's a combination which is very difficult for us to sometimes understand, but it's the same as the breathing. We breathe out and we breathe in, and there's contraction and there's expansion, and all the time it's part of the one. So when you talk about the pulse and about breathing, it's
Mm.
they're expressions of the one energy that exists within us. And so, yeah, I
Yeah.
totally get what you're saying.
Thank you. 'Cause always correcting the most intrinsic things, things that maybe we overlook, because that's just the way I was made. I was made from an early age, from the beginning, but I just noticed the tiniest of things, and I was kept outside of attuning to much else. I was kept almost in this water bubble of my original consciousness, and I just had to learn the way of that I was and find what was missing, to be able to rebirth um, these intrinsic ways about within us, but also that's in connection, right? Because I have access to the full channel of the cosmic womb. So these are, personal corrections, but celestial corrections too. I hope you don't mind. I'm just literally anything that comes into my voice, I'm just saying it.
No, no. This is part of your power anyway. It's your
Yeah.
elemental ability to be able to connect with the original, with the source, with the womb,
Mm,
and to express the energy that has come out of that whole
yeah.
arena. So, and you are a voice, a spokesperson, a voice piece for that energy. So that's what I see you as. And I
Yeah.
first recognized it the very first time I heard you speak. So you have a gift, and it's been with you ever since you left the womb.
Yes. Yes, and I'm still drumming, beating the drum that we are within the womb. This is where I am with the breath. Okay, I have to stop apologizing for my babbling. There's such a beautiful space opened here. I just want to explain the space that opened when just like 5 minutes before I turned on the Zoom, and I was just clearing and preparing the space, or allowing the space to prepare itself. And my whole kitchen is just swirling water right now, swirling aqualine water. And there is a big white lion in here, and there is a presence of the sun behind me, the golden sun, and there is this feeling of like marine life swirling around. So it's really a bubbly, lively feeling that I have right now in my kitchen.
Well,
But
I think
this,
it's wonderful.
yeah, okay. So I'll go back to the breath, right? Because if I keep talking, we will never have any direction whatsoever. So what I would love to ask you, David, what is in your mind to say, or like what was coming up for you that you would love to just bring into this dolphin-filled water space that we have right now? And is there
Well,
anything?
there's so many things that one could say, especially as you've opened so many doorways there,
Mm,
which is what, of course, you do. You open doorways for us to step through if we choose to.
mm,
And the doorway that I choose to step through here is first of all, I mean, there are many of them, but the um, the 15th and the 14th and the 13th dimensions um, were I was reminded of as you were talking there. The great white lion, the feline hominid, which is what many of us are. And then we also mentioned that the cetaceans, who are part and parcel of our soul family. The feline hominid is the 13th dimension, and that is the feminine, the mother arc of our time matrix. The 15th dimension is the father arc, which is essentially uh, the energy that completes the mother. So we've got a father arc of power and a mother arc of power in the 13th and the 14th. And the central one is the 14th dimension, which
mm,
is there's no difference between them in effect, or in the value, of course. They all contribute something, and I just wanted to talk to you about that. This is what the doorway that you opened for me, that in
mm,
fact our initial energetic soul essences come from those 15th, 14th, and 13th dimensions. They are connected in so many different ways. The ways you just mentioned, you mentioned the feline, the great white lion. We mentioned the cetaceans, the whales, and the dolphins, out of the Orifin humanoids, and of course the father and the mother principle, the breathing, the contraction and the expansion. The expansion is the father, the contraction is the mother, and these all play into the breathing mechanism of existence for us all in the heart of source. So that's the first doorway you opened for me,
mm.
and it's a majestic one. It really is quite an extraordinary one. And the 13th, the mother arc is aquamarine, and
Mm.
connected with the sapphire crystals too. So, and you've mentioned that. So we've
Yeah,
already walked through some doorways here.
we have. I was so blessed recently, a few weeks ago. I was actually feeling I had done quite a lot of work, I will say, and it was work. This particular thing was quite arduous. And I just said, I said, I said to the heavens, I would like an honoring, please, because I was tired. And I said, I think I'd like something nice, please. So I received this beautiful, this beautiful. I don't usually say that, but I really, I was tired. I wanted something nice, basically, and I received this beautiful kind of replenishment within this rose quartz, and it was shown my heart was being given this rose quartz replenishment, and I was being given this amethyst plasma replenishment, and I was shown, I was offered like a sapphire in the palm of each hand.
Wow.
And I was like, thank you. And surrounded by purple flowers. So, yeah, it was beautiful. So, this sapphire, it showed me again, it gave me further direction about the importance of the sapphire. I say sapphire currency because I feel like it is a breath, it is a sound wave. And I was always saying sound, but now I started saying breath. And I just want to speak on that because everything I say just comes out. So, and it's hard for me to find a reflection to tell, for me to find the resonance of it.
Yeah.
Um, I basically just keep saying stuff until someone tells me it's right or wrong, you know. Or I figure out myself, oh, there's another bit. So this sapphire currency, what it's coming to me as, and this is from my perspective, is like it's all about the breath. It's all about like for me, consciousness is breath. So whatever our understanding of consciousness is, whatever our understanding of breath is, will be our understanding of consciousness. And I was trying to trace back the infinity breath. When I was a young girl, I used to again I was here in a bubble with stuff to do. Okay, I wasn't just your regular little girl. I was very lucky to have parents who just let me daydream as much as I needed to, and they gave me so much space,
Yeah.
and they didn't make big demands of me. They just worked around me, you know. So like because I was the seventh child, so it was probably they were probably delighted that I was so quiet, you know. So I was left just into my own devices. But anyway, I found this. What I found, I when I was a child, I remember this breathing. I mean, I was terrified of the space between the inhale and the exhale. I felt like I could actually be pulled into complete abandonment. And I used into darkness, like into like a black hole. So I used to like breathe really short and try to stop breathing. I used to do all these tricks as a child, to try to stop feeling that. But I worked anyway. Fast forward to a couple of years ago, I worked with a woman and her child was having difficulty. He kept choking and vomiting, and
Wow.
I had been wondering about this cosmic placenta, this original placenta, whatever that would be. And I said there must be something there, because in my mind the infinity breath was between mother and child passing through this placenta. And anyway, we worked with her and her child. Again, I find the the interruption in the person in front of me, but then trace it. It's always something I'm looking for on a grander scale. Um, and we filled the placenta, brought it back to golden honor, and the boy was better after. He was okay after that. He stopped his problems.
Wow.
Um, But I don't know if I want to just run that by you. I want to, because this is my experience of free energy, free breath. Infinity breath is of mother and child. And so where I was saying sound, now I'm saying breath. And the word is ha. To me, the first sound that was ever uttered is ha. And even as we breathe, that's what it opens a channel. And that is the breath a woman would make when she's in the end stages of giving birth as well, because she's trying to, put like push. And I
Yeah.
use this sound to push things through. Okay.
No, I think it's wonderful what you said. Let me
Yeah.
ask you a question though. When you imagine the golden light, I suspect of
Mm.
the original sun, was it
Mhm.
within the mother of the child, or was the child involved in that outpicturing?
The the sun that came through to heal the child, or the
Yeah.
goal that came through. Um, I just call for it.
Oh, right. Okay.
So I feel it coming through me. Um, yeah, I just felt it coming, this golden energy coming through, and I send it through.
Well, what you said is really, I mean, this is what you do. You see,
Mm,
you're sort of like, and I mean this in a very celestial sense, that you're sort of like a sorceress, really.
mm, yeah,
You know, you're connected with the elemental frequency fields of Earth, the planetary logos, the heart
yeah,
and mind of the planet itself. So that in it's almost like magic. We can't use that word really, but what I'm talking
yeah.
about is celestial energy. And that's what you do, because you've just done it with me, because you're talking about the breath and the infinity.
Mm,
Well, and this is my perspective, because for years I used to work with young people, training them in sports, and
mm,
quite a few, actually quite a few girls, I discovered weren't breathing while they did their sport. They would be holding
mhm.
their breath until the
Great.
activity is over, and then of course they were exhausted, so they weren't ready for the
Mm,
next input. So with regard to this breathing that you've just mentioned, is the out breath.
mm.
Okay, now I'm not trying to create boundaries here. All right, I'm just expressing how
Of course.
the universe, the cosmos, really works here, and how it works through
Mhm,
us, because we are aspects of the universe itself. We are the
mm,
universe too. So when we breathe out, that's the creative electrical light
mm,
expression of God. That's, you know, when we're breathing out to create and to manifest,
mm,
as we do. So that's the expression. But when we finish the hard breath, we are in perpetual stillness, if only for a moment. So we breathe out and everything is still. And then we breathe in. We breathe in everything into us, and that becomes the nurturing breath of that comes
mm,
within us. So, and as we finish that breath, we're back into the stillness. So what we have is perpetual movement of the breath in and out, the
mm,
contraction and the expansion, and we also
mm,
have the infinity moment where we're in perpetual stillness, and in that moment we are connected with well, what the scientists would call the 0 point field, which we would really call God source, or the
yeah.
source of everything. So we have that tripartite. We have the
Mm,
expression, which is God's expression. We have God's intention, which is contraction and nurture.
mhm,
And we have this moments of stillness at both ends, which mean we replenish our connection with God source. So the breathing, of course, is vital. And I always remember being astonished when I discovered that a lot of young people in doing sports would actually, a lot of the time, be holding their breath, particularly at critical moments, and not
mm,
breathing in and out and in and out. So it sounds
yeah.
extraordinary that we should learn how to breathe, but in fact, we should learn how to breathe.
Yes. And yeah, and I really want to get the consciousness of the first breath. I want to get that correct. Now, I'm not saying we have to get that right now, but this is what I'm calling for, right? This is what I'm calling for, to know what the first breath is. Because in my understanding, there has never been a time where we have not been breathing. And to me, our first breath is within the womb, because all life began in the womb. So when we learn the breath of the womb, when we learn the breath of the womb and we know that is our breath, to me we can allow for our infinity breath and our infinite consciousness. And I recognize, the idea of being birthed. I understand that there's this systems of law, right? That to do with the birth cert and all of those kind of spell games of like when you are birthed and you take your first breath, you are now birthed into this whatever that particular system is of finite consciousness of contract. So that's where I am at the moment, wanting to connect with the very first breath and to bring the understanding that it is we have never been without it. Like our first breath was in the womb. This is where I am with that.
Well, yes, and you can help me on this one because I'm not an
Yeah.
expert at all in this. But when we are in the womb, um,
Mm-hmm.
after a certain amount of what we might call time, we start to
Mm-hmm.
breathe. So this is the first breath, and would that not be in a fluid environment? So we are breathing
Mm-hmm.
in a water-based environment. Is that right?
We are breathing in, so the mechanism of how we breathe in the womb is from our mother's placenta. So the mother is like giving oxygen and nutrients and everything else to this placenta, and then this placenta comes into us through our navel as the baby. So it is a symbiotic breath. This is also something I wanted to speak on. The symbiotic breath, this return of us as children of the Great Mother, of the source of everything that we need, like constant nourishment, to return to the symbiotic knowing of mother and child, this infinity breath, because the only place I can see in nature where I have experienced this infinity breath is in the womb. So I want to bring the consciousness back to this understanding that we are symbiotically known to the Great Mother, and therefore everything we need is always, and between the mother and the child, whatever is wrong with the child, whatever the child needs, the breath changes, everything responds, right? Because it's symbiotic, and each one is known to each other. So you are a piece of the mother. You're not separate, and we have, you know, such feelings in our consciousness of isolation and separation and starvation and abandonment. And I just wonder, is that because we don't remember in our bodies the first breath is symbiotic, and it is the breath of mother and child, and is the breath that tells us we are um,
Secure.
always provided, yeah, always secure and connected and responded to. Mm. So that's where I am at the moment.
So you're busy trying to you're working a question out to be able to
Mm-hmm.
ask about the why or the how.
Mm.
This first breath is so vital to us. Uh,
Yeah.
this is a journey which you are taking, Mary, because you know
Mm-hmm.
so much more about this than I do.
Mm-hmm.
But allow me, if I may,
Yeah,
to just make an observation.
sure.
And this is what I do. I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
are extremely celestially elemental. That's why I called you
Mm-hmm.
a sorceress in a sense, in the nicest way, because
Mm-hmm.
you bring this elemental inner standing of how life works in our worlds. And
Mm-hmm.
that's so vital to know the details. For example, you want to know about this infinity breath, this first breath.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to look at things from a much more, shall we say, electrical viewpoint.
Yes.
So I
Mm-hmm.
look at the whole thing and I try to understand what the whole out picture is involving and how it can relate to individual details. But I
Mm-hmm.
don't concern myself so much with the details. I'm looking at the sky picture. So I'll present
So
you a
that's the expansion and the contraction, right? This is why we have to correspond. Okay, yeah,
yeah,
go on. Yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah.
let me take us all back
Mm-hmm.
to the original, which where we are in the original of all that is. Some people call it the living presence, and some people call it the eternal essence. And the essences are everything. Everything that you can think of is contained within that original unici, pure consciousness, really.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we truly reside anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So how is it that we have managed to manifest ourselves here in what we would call a 3D realm, where we're concerned about breathing and where we're concerned about contraction and expansion and existing in these strange worlds of illusion that are so real? Well, the pure consciousness on a on one in one particular moment will choose through its God intention, through its pure consciousness intention, to downstep a tiny particle, a fragment of its own self. That's you, Mary, and that's me, and that's everybody who's listening. So we have downstepped out of the pure consciousness, an encrypted fragment of ourself, and it's encrypted because we have that calling card which returns us home as long as we always remember it. That is who we are. That is our inestimable, ineffable identity. So this downstep of ourselves occurs out of the pure consciousness realms. And in the process, that's known as the seed of consciousness. And in the process, it is downstepped again into a stream of consciousness. So now we have come from here to here to here as a stream of consciousness. And then that becomes the spark of the living flame. That's the fourth down step, if you see what I mean. So we are still pure consciousness, but we're a fragment of it. And in order to exist within the crystalline worlds of the hologram, this is our worlds of illusion, and there are many, many millions of them. In order to exist down here, we separate. We separate our energetic identity. We are still the same identity, but we separate it so that there is a duality. And that separation is electric, magnetic, light, sound,
Mm-hmm.
oscillation, and vibration. I'm talking about the masculine and the feminine,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so those two energies are manifested. But the critical, interesting thing for me is that it is the sound energy that comes first. So the
Yeah.
sound, magnetism, and vibration comes out of the spark of the living flame first. And how does the electric, the light, and the oscillation manifest? It
Mm-hmm.
manifests out of the sound connection. It manifests, the
Yeah.
masculine manifests out of the feminine, which is, of course, the complete opposite of what the Bible tells us. So we have now got ourselves connected through the spark of the living flame with pure consciousness through our
Mm-hmm.
encrypted identity, which never changes. And we have two aspects of ourselves. This is, when they're together, Mary, this is our twin flame, the
Yeah.
original twin flame of who we are,
Mm-hmm.
our true pure consciousness identity. But when they
Mm-hmm.
separate, they still exist as one through their actions. So
Mm-hmm.
they separate out in the breathing and they come together. And in those moments, they connect with
Mm-hmm.
the spark of the living flame to receive further eternal energies. So that is the protocol for living,
That's beautiful.
eternally together
Mm.
as one, even though we separate. Now, what happens to us down here? And why are we having to ask all these questions? Why is it that we have had to wait for Mary to manifest here as a young girl, connected with the elemental fields of Earth, so that we can find the answers to these critical questions? Because we've forgotten. We've forgotten
Mm.
so much. Because as we downstep further into other dimensional realms, we become even more of a fragment of ourselves. So what we
Mm-hmm.
have done is we have manifested ourselves into many different aspects of our persona, of our original identity. For example, when we reach the 15th dimension, there's one that we mentioned earlier, that's magenta color. And it's in the Kundera sound fields, which are extremely
Mm.
powerful creation elements. So in the 15th dimension, which is magenta, as the color, we have a rishi self, And that Rishi self down steps into the other dimensions. So our Rishi
Mhm.
self is our connector point to the pure conscious identity encryption of who we are as our twin flame. That's the masculine and the feminine acting together, the electric and the magnetic. So
Mhm.
that Rishi self down steps 12 of its own fragmentary selves into the harmonic universe 4, which is dimensions 12, 11, and 10. So there are now 12 representations of our Rishi self in the fourth harmonic dimension, which is dimensions 10, 11, and 12. And each one of those down steps 12 fragments of itself again into the next 7, 8, 9 dimensions. All right, the
Mhm.
harmonic universe through 3. And that process goes on until we arrive here in Earth with a large number of fragmentary aspects of our own encrypted pure consciousness self. Our God source self has downstepped now in our form, Mary,
Mhm.
into all of these with 1728 of ourselves. Now, it sounds inconceivable that this could be the case. But what is our purpose? Our purpose is to collect all of these fragments of ourselves back into our original identity and become as we once were.
Mhm.
And in the process, of course, as we downstep more of ourselves, we actually
Mhm.
run the risk in a free will universe of forgetfulness. And we do forget some of the elemental details. And that, I mean, that's why I feel so connected to you, Mary,
Yeah.
because I know that you're here to help us
Mhm.
remember
Yeah.
and reconnect with these primary pivotal details of who we are, like the
Mhm.
breathing you're talking about, like
Yeah.
womb, like the
Mhm.
placenta, the
The simple things.
yes, because
Mhm.
all of this helps us to recover our memories, to recover the
Yeah.
fact that we are ineffable aspects of
Mhm.
sorts.
I love, I love, I don't, obviously, I don't have the framework to comprehend what you're saying, but that's all good. But I love that you shared all of that. So thank you. Um, I want to speak on what you said. Um, what you speak about the masculine and feminine, and the word that's coming to me now is correspondence, and I'm seeing it. It's a beautiful wave over and back of clarification and unfolding for all masculine and feminine. It's when we come into this when we choose to release the war, right? Release the war because there's been so much defense and attack of it, and that even leads then to paranoia and all sorts. So when we come back into the breath of love and we return ourselves to the knowing that breath is love, we are very blessed to be alive. Every breath is a blessing. People
Yeah.
forget these simple things, and we take everything for granted. Not I don't mean that we do that, but it's so easy for people to take things for granted, and they don't realize that every breath is pure love, and every breath is sent to nourish and strengthen and sustain every person. We're constantly being loved. And then so when if we are born of that breath, if we are made from that breath, it's such a insult to live to speak the breath of war against each other. And I'm not perfect. Of course I say, argumentative things and stuff. Sometimes I get annoyed and I say stuff. But it is an insult actually to what we're made of. We're made of love. And then to bring our voice to speak at war, like spells upon each other and projections and things like that. It's like I just feel like the truth of who we actually are intrinsically is becoming more undeniable, and it is becoming the field we are in is responsive to who we actually are. The spells aren't working anymore, the tricks aren't working anymore, so you can't just be a pig who just like picks on people and just stands on people's heads. It's not everyone can see. Everyone can see who we are. Everyone can feel. And what I'm feeling lately, which is so lovely, I'm feeling people. Like I'm seeing people's faces. Like I said, I just saw this big white lion in my kitchen. I'm seeing people. I'm hearing people's names. And I'm being told that the ones who you can feel, just keep going with that, you know? And if there's other people where there's this constant dissonance or whatever, that's okay too. This is just part of who I am. I have to feel the dissonance. I have to breathe it in, breathe it out, and I am breathing everything back to the. I'm breathing everything. What I figured out today. I am inhaling everything back to the cosmic rose and exhaling it through my heart. And I'm not the only one, of course. This is what we are doing. This is our nature. I just realized it, let's say today. And we are returning the pattern. In my understanding, we are returning the pattern, that cohesing pattern. When you speak of everything having to come back into one, us gathering up our fractal pieces, I feel it is on this, and I will I you showed a picture, and I think you called it the lotus pattern, and I always call it the rose pattern,
Right.
probably because I had no access to lotuses when I was a child. I had access to roses, right? So it's this rose, and rose has been the word for me, but it's literally inhaling the dissonance, sending it back to the cosmic womb for repatterning, and exhaling it. And this, of course, the personhood, the heart and the womb, this whole thing is of the cosmic womb. It's of the rose. It's of the first pattern. So I'm just seeing in our breath that we are repatterning. We are doing that work of gathering up the bits of ourselves, the bits that matter, the bits that can cohese, because there's so many parts of our consciousness that is not making it through the rose pattern. There's so many adaptations within the consciousness that is just doesn't make. It's like the eye of the needle. It's not going to make it through. But the eye of the needle is like a rose pattern, and it's the intention. It was the first intention of the love of what we're made of. And this is why I'm so into the breath now, because I'm actually seeing it as the modality of how to do this, how to cohese everything into one pattern. So
I love that. Thank you so much for that description. It's
mhm,
powerful, but it was clear, and it
mhm,
rang like a bell, which is hardly
mhm.
surprising because you are a very powerful sound tone yourself, Mary Costello.
Yeah,
Um, in fact, sound is God's intention, and,
yeah.
and light is God's expression. And
Mhm.
some of the things you were saying there were they just ring bells inside me. So I'll just speak, shall I?
Yeah, please.
The thing
Tell
is,
them I'm not crazy, David.
ladies and gentlemen, she's not crazy. um, the thing is, you mentioned about the rose there, and
Yeah.
it's very interesting that a whole universe takes 15 days to manifest. Well, I say days, of course, because time doesn't really exist. But if we had to put a
Mm,
time limit on it as a structural
mhm,
aspect, universes take about 15 days to manifest.
mhm.
The first 9 days involve the Rosetta energies.
Yeah,
The Rosetta energies. I mean, how
yeah.
close can you get to a rose than that? That's because
Mm,
those energies are used it's, to actually manifest holographic
mm,
universes. So I thought that's the first thing I came to notice.
mhm.
And also in history, the Rosetta Stone was a stone
Yeah.
which had three different hieroglyphics on it, which enabled people to be able to understand what hieroglyphics were saying. So that was the Rosetta Stone, which was
Mhm.
enlightenment. It enlightened us about something deep in the past. So your reference to the rose is very pivotal.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
other thing is that I was nodding in appreciation there when you mentioned about the things that do seemingly fall apart and take us away from who we truly are, uh,
Mm,
especially down here in the lowest domains of our fractalization. And that's because of free will, because
mhm.
we have the two primal laws, which are the law of one, in other words, unity consciousness. Everything is together as one. And then the other law is the free will, so that when you manifest an aspect of yourself here in the lower holographic realms of illusion, basically anything goes. You can do anything you like, but you have your own personal responsibility to remember to bring yourself back to who you truly are, to recover your own identity. And Mary, as you know, as we all know who are listening to this, it is very, very difficult sometimes to actually navigate that experience, because some of the things that happen to us down here, they take you by surprise as much as anything else. Like, for example, I often say, I'm perfectly equable in the kitchen in the morning, but if my toast falls butter down on the floor, I sort of explode with rage. And then I think, Dave, what are you doing? Don't be so stupid. So this world can catch us unawares at any time. And the thing that I just conclude with this as well, because this is what you made me think, how we got to be there is through free will. And initially, a few million years ago, as humans here on Earth, we were living a golden age of beauty and love and connection. It was just wonderful, with all of the elemental aspects of our planetary field. The plants, and we could talk the plants, we could connect with all of the animals, etc. There was no war, no aggression, no division. And in those days, we were experiencing unknowing innocence. The innocence is who we are. We are just loving, innocent, giving, caring beings. The unknowing aspect is what we are called upon to change when we come into the lower dimensional realms. We have to become knowing innocence. So, in other words, at the end of the game, which is where we are now, I believe that we are in this end game, as you suggested, Mary. It's because we have become knowing innocence. All of us out here who are angelic indigo humans are innocents in the terms of our love that is within us, our connection with all other things. But now we are knowing. We know that some things can fall apart. We know that in the worlds of free will, anything can happen, and we must be aware. So, having come from millions of years ago being unknowing innocence, we are now knowing innocence. And here we can make a choice as to who we are and what we're going to do.
Yeah. I feel that we are at the end of the game, because they wouldn't have, I'm very grateful for the people who walked in front of me. There was a lot of fire in front of me, things I didn't have to face. So I'm very grateful for that. And I'm very much aware that the fact that I'm able to speak, because I didn't speak for most of my life, and I didn't speak of any relevance until a few years ago.
Wow.
I spoke with children. I had a Montessori school, and I spoke with them because it's pure love with children,
Yeah.
and my own lovely children as well. So that was fine. The fact that I'm able to speak tells me we are nearing the end. I have very big intentions, David, to really see the end of, I watched the fire at the gate. I watched the fire at the gate, this like fiery, maddening self implosion of the people, that ruby heart around me and the men around me. And I see now what it was. There was a guarding going on, taking the hits, and so I just want to add that in, the fact that I'm able to speak as freely as I do. I say anything I want at any time. That speaks volumes to me about where we are. And I see, like, I saw the most beautiful young girl today, and there's a prophecy, there's a symphony happening. I feel like I'm walking in a prophecy. This most beautiful girl, she was maybe 16 years of age. She should have been on a throne, but she was carrying her big school bag and she was tired. And I just looked at her and she just smiled at me, the most beautiful smile. And I don't know how to explain it, but it was this timeless, it was a
Connection.
timeless recognition. She was so beautiful. And there was a little girl a few days ago, a little like 2 or 3 year old girl. She was walking with her father. Her father was carrying her bike. And she was the queen of the world. She was so proud of herself because her dad had her bike and she was just being pretty and cool. And she looked at me and I stood out of the way to let her pass. And she looked at me to recognize that I let her pass. And she stuck her tongue out at me, just stuck her tongue out for fun. And I stuck my tongue back and she just laughed her head off. But again, it was this timeless recognition of we are free. We are free and we can feel it. That's what it was. It was something gorgeous. And I'm working under the parameter, under the understanding that we are all within the womb. And I am working at this moment with the understanding that the celestial womb was in bondage and it is freed. That's where I am right now. The celestial womb was in bondage. That celestial rose, which is the beginning of the womb. It is the beginning of the pattern of our holding. Let's say our holding pattern, which is what holds us. There is a core tone of that, which I believe to be that ha sound, and there is and I know it to be that because when I sang that sound as loud as I could at my grandmother's castle with my beautiful friend Angela behind me shouting at me, sing it, sing it, sing it. She was screaming at me because she knew I had to do it. Um, I I connected with the aquiline sun, and
Wow.
the sound of the aquiline sun was ha, and it opened up. It opened up this birthing channel from the aquiline sun to where I was because it's like I heard the sound of it and I could sing it back to us.
Okay.
So
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, okay, let me just say something. Armenia, 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 the three plasma currents of the aquiline creative sun. That's in the Crystal River Prayer, which is a pre-ancient prayer. So that's Armenia, Armenia, Armenia. Those are the calling tones of the aquiline sun. It's real, and you were doing it. I just thought that
yeah,
was awesome. It was just so fantastic. So,
so
but
weird.
can I just input some things here now, just from
Sure.
listening to
Yeah.
you, see, because what
Hmm.
you do is you unlock doors, as I've said a few
Yeah.
times. You strike sparks.
Hmm.
You're sort of like, in a sense, a celestial firework, really, for me, anyway.
You see,
um,
yeah, it's you know what that is, and I've just been told because I I find it very hard to know what I who I am, but it's increasing now with speaking with people. I was just told it's you see the waves in the womb, the waves of are ignitable, right? The waves of creation are ignitable, like combustible, and they just take. It's like they little bubbles pop, these ignitions. Anyway, okay.
that's wonderful. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and the other thing is that it suddenly struck me because you were talking about, this is the end game time, and this is when
Mm,
it's all the denouement, the unraveling of everything. So that's
mm,
the next thing I wanted to say, because I suddenly got told that you've been very protected.
yes. Hmm.
Yeah, but that it doesn't decry all of the experiences that you've had in previous existences, which are still
Hmm.
ongoing now. You've had some tough times in previous existences, but in this one you've been protected so that your voice
Hmm.
could be heard at the
Yeah.
moment that it needed to be heard, and that is now. So that's something else that came through there. The other thing you
Mm,
said about the womb of the world, well, it was seriously damaged. The planetary logos, the heart, mind,
mm,
soul of the center of our planet, was seriously damaged for many thousands of years. And in doing so to our planetary mother, it did it to us too, through our DNA strands, through our genomic energies. So yeah, we've all been through a tough time. And but then you told me about the little girl, and and the 16-year-old girl.
Yeah.
And the word that came into my head immediately was connection. This is the I keep using the word celestial as well, but it's so apropos. The celestial connection. That's what we're talking about now, and it's happening everywhere. And I'll give you one of my stories. Um,
Yeah.
this happened a year ago. I think I wrote about it once, but I'll cut to the chase very quickly. I'll cut the story down. I
Mm,
was walking through a park in a nice warm summer day. I was going to cross a very difficult traffic laden road to get to a superstore to get some things, and I was walking through this little parkway just before the road, and there was a little Indian girl, I think probably 6 or 7.
mm,
She was very small, tiny, and standing in front of me, and she had 3 older people. I assumed they were grandparents or aunties or something, and they were all Indian. And I don't think that the adults spoke English at all.
mhm.
I said, "Excuse me, young lady, can I get by?" And she turned and said to me, "Yes, of course. My name is Indira." I think that's what she said,
Wow.
something Indira. And I said, "Oh, jolly nice. My name is David." And she said, are you going to the road? And I said, "Yes, I'm walking to the road." She says, "I'll walk with you." So here I've got a 6-year-old Indian girl walking with me, and we're talking. She's talking away perfectly fluently. It's just brilliant.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, her grandparents and auntie or whoever they are walking silently behind us. And I'm thinking,
Mm,
maybe I should say something to them, but what if they don't
yeah.
speak English? So we get to the road, right? She's talking away 19 to the dozen, and she's obviously having a
Yeah.
wonderful time. She's not worried about her adults behind her. She gets
Yeah.
to the road, and I say to her, "Well, Indira, now you'll have to go back to your people because I'm going to cross the road, and it's very dangerous. You shouldn't be here."
Mm.
And she looked up at me and said, "Don't worry, I can help you get across." And she grabbed my hand.
Oh,
So
oh,
here I was, this grown man holding this 6-year-old Indian girl's hand who was prepared to take me across the road. And you know what? She did. She took
yeah.
me across the road. And when we got
Mm.
to the other side, she said, "It wasn't too bad, was it?" And then she went back to get her other people, the grand.
Yeah.
So and I
Mm.
remember walking into the store
Yeah.
thinking, well, if the world is populated by children like that, we're in a
Mm.
good place.
Yeah. You know what this shows is so beautiful. Like when you speak of, so when the womb, and we do remember, this was my initial awakening. I woke like an angry golden dragon because I remember the enslavement, the forced breeding, all of it. I
Oh,
woke up, yeah, I woke up angry, as you can imagine, full of love. It's not anger of vengeance, it's anger of where are my children? Like where are they?
good
Where
point.
are my the pieces of me? Where am I? It's where am I? It's like to reconfigure the mother is to reconfigure the child. But what was shown, and I spoke the way I just yap away, so all the other women came to me as well, the women with the same imprint in the body of the same thing, and I helped women, and there's lots of women doing that, helping each other to relieve those things from the body, because everything programmed into the womb um, is sent to the child, to hormonally prepare the child for enslavement.
Yeah,
So if the mother has been enslaved, the child is birthed with the hormones to be enslaved, or the hormones for war. We were genetically adapted for war, you know. So all of those things, this sapphire currency, I have used this on the blood of humanity because everything is a network, right? Everything cohesive. So the blood is one, there's one blood. I have used that on the blood to remove the, it's always to recreate the correct pattern. So the correct pattern of the blood is love, of every cell, of every vibrational beginning. The correct pattern is love. And we were tampered with at the most intrinsic level, like
Yes.
set to war against ourselves in a cellular way. And disease. I just want to speak a story of my mother that
Yeah.
that came today. When I did Reiki, and just a regular, like I learned Reiki, and I wasn't good at it. It used to give me headaches. I couldn't remember all the steps. It just didn't work. You have to, like, there's all these different things you have to do. It's like, no, it's too complicated. So I couldn't do it really. But I knew that something could come out of my hands. I knew that much. So when my mother was sick, she had cancer in her liver, and I just was so desperate, and I just sent this, like, and was always told, you have to be so careful. It has to come in your head and out your hands. It was like this perfection. And I was like, just, I don't care. It's just, I'm going to flood her with love, flood her with love. And so it wasn't light, it was love. Because I was always told you use light to heal.
Mhm.
So light is light. It's white. It was always white. But love, this love was red. It was red roses. It was coming through my heart and my womb, and I could see the blackness in her turning to red roses.
Wow.
And I know from that moment that I have a very grand intentions, but I know from that moment that I can turn every shadow into red roses. I believe that. I really do believe that.
I totally believe you too. I think it was a powerful story.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
absolutely no doubt. After all, you are God's intention, and so
Mm,
when you are acting and activating at your full frequency as your own true self, you are God's intention. And when a man is, or the masculine is acting in his true celestial capacity, he is God's true expression. And that's
yeah.
why when they both get together in alignment of energies, that worlds are created. So you are creating your own world through your God's intention. And that
Mm,
is a very powerful thing, Mary. Very powerful
yeah.
thing.
I want to speak of, you said about the sound, which is that love, the sound births the masculine. And I wanted to speak to you about that, about I had a personal experience of this in January, and then I know of two other women who've spoken of it. So this is something that's happening right now with the women, because when it happens in one of us, it just spreads. Like I said, everything is a network. It really is. Just everything's a network. So, and sometimes, this is why sometimes people think we're copying each other. Someone might, you copied my thing. And like, we are supposed to be cohesive. This is what happened. You can't have it always. You can't have like intellectual property rights
No,
over, you know, beautiful, life-changing information. It doesn't work like that. Like, you don't ever hear a tree arguing for the right to be just the only tree in the forest. You know what I mean? We have
good.
to allow, just like allow. And if we truly believe that what we're doing is the right way, then we should want the whole world to be like that, if it's right,
Yeah,
you know. So there's no competition. But okay, so what we saw, it involved some rebirth. It involved, again, this is women who have the understanding of the cosmic womb, of the light function of the womb. I know I spoke about that before. And I want to introduce this as a concept because I know that the God's intention, like you say, these sound waves of love, which are birthing waves. So, this is how we are formed. It's how we are birthed. It is waves. We are birthed through waves, and we are
yeah,
formed through waves. Um, that has been almost hidden, or like the silent, like inaudible, and also bombarded with false sound and false intention. So there was a lot of false intention in the body of Mother that had nothing to do with her, what she intended. If you know, this is what I'm saying about, we had to breed things that were not of our intention.
yeah,
That we had to, there was the good was taken out of who we were, but we still had to be who we were, you know. So what we saw, there was actually a rebirth, and this ties into the subconscious and the free will. Um, we we found that the seed bed, the subconscious, people call it the subconscious. It is truly the seed bed of intention, And that is to be mine, right? That's to be the mother's, because we are the intention, right? So that
Yeah.
should be our beautiful soil of our garden, right? But it was something else. It was this seedbed of this subconscious compulsions of free will, like do whatever the hell you want inside in mother's soil. You're like, no, absolutely not. So we saw this mess, and what we actually saw happening was this kind of archonic black sun. And I would love to ask you about the black sun, this black sun energy, this composite of finite subconscious timelines, let's say, I guess the result of free will, all of which involved the enslavement or the fracture of mother, none of which were born from of the golden mother in her full glory, in her full freedom and joy, right? These are, so this is where I say free will is outside of is in contention. I say free will is in contention of the divine will. Anyway, let me wrap this. There's a few bits to it. What we saw is basically this composite black sun rebirthing into a golden sun, and being done through the through waves of love. It was a rebirthing process, and for some women, it's very physical. You know, they can really. It's very like it's not. It's undeniable. You know, it's just that we don't broadcast it. I'm kind of the only one yapping away, but I can do that because I'm so protected. So I take the liberty of yapping away, but I protect the women that I work with as well, and I don't, um, expose anyone's privacy, but I just to let people know that it's very real. You know, I've witnessed it, and I've experienced it myself in a different kind of a more observational way. So what I wanted to say, okay, I wanted to ask you about the black sun, and I wanted to move on then to the cosmic clock, which to me is the symphony, the streaming symphony of mother's song, grandmother's actually, and the one golden timeline of the father of this golden sun. So I just want, do you have anything to say about the black sun?
Well, first of all, the thing I will say is that,
Mm,
yes, there are so many ladies out there who need your assistance, need you to
mm,
hold their hand and recalibrate their experience in so many ways.
mm,
And you are certainly the lady who can do that, because I've come across quite a few ladies who do have the same challenges that you have just been talking about.
yeah.
Okay, the black sun. Well, the black sun is a reptizoid sun. In other words, manifested by reptilian beings of astonishing age, which, if you consider time,
Mm,
and it's situated behind our own sun. It's behind our sun, so we can't see it,
mm,
of course. But yeah, it existed. Also,
mm,
I can tell you that, and this is just going into the depths of our cosmic history.
mm,
Um,
mm,
Millions of years ago, we were targeted. Angelic indigo humans were targeted because of they knew what we were here for. We were here to
mm,
do what you're doing, and they didn't. And the reptizoid beings, um, who were once pure consciousness but lost
mhm,
pretty much all, didn't want us to be successful. And 5.5 million years ago, they destroyed one of our DNA strand race lines, the Polarians, and they badly
okay.
damaged the others, called the Hyperboreans. And
Mm,
they were responsible originally for bringing our first DNA strand into the planetary logos of Earth. So they were very important, and they were very
mm,
celestial beings, but they were taken apart literally by these reptizoids. And a lot of these beings took those some of those Polarians and Hyperboreans and investigated and experimented with consciousness, and discovered that, and this is going back because this is what the world is changing now. So it's not like this now, but
yeah.
they went back and created their own reversed frequency consciousness, and endeavored to place it into the planetary logos of a lot of planets.
Mm.
And that was the feminine consciousness known as Black Lilith. And,
I know her well.
and this was to be set up as the alternative to the original celestial goddess source, Christos Sophia. And so that's the story behind that. It's been an ongoing struggle. And many times, Mary, you and I and our ancient ancestors and our past life beings have come so close to not making it. I mean, within moments of extinction. And yet here we are, talking as we are talking, expressing as we're expressing, with the intention that we have, knowing that we are recalibrating the divine. So I just thought I'd throw that in there with regard to the black sun. I hope that clarifies something about it. I can't remember.
It does, because it was a pulling energy. It was a pulling energy, pulling, like I said, it's from behind the sun, pulling the beautiful electrical energy away from us and essentially starving us, you know.
Yes,
I can
actually,
feel that.
something else has just come in as you were talking there. The Hyperboreans, who were so important for us and got very badly mauled and damaged. They ended up actually coming to Earth to escape and manifested themselves in their much more fallen state, and feeling aggressive and feeling warlike about what had
Yeah.
happened to them. And they manifested mostly in Scotland and Wales and England and the Scandinavian countries and in northern Greece and northern Italy and some of the Caucasian lands. And a lot of our myths and legends feature a lot of their pre-ancient memories. For example, Black Lilith comes through in the myth of the Medusa, you know, the woman,
Yeah.
snake-like woman with the snakes in her hair who could turn men to stone.
Yeah.
That is a race memory of those pre-ancient times, long, long ago. And that really gives you an insight into the impact, the psychological impact, the psychic impact that is had upon our own civilizations. In fact, myths and the legends have really been thrown at us consistently. I remember at school, I was told we had to learn all those myths and we'd be tested on them because and most of those myths and legends are pretty horrible. They're pretty costly. So
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I had that too. And I was the only one in the class who couldn't learn them. I used to get like 5% in the test. Everyone else used to get 100%. I wasn't allowed to learn them. This
well,
is funny. Like it was Greek stuff.
yeah,
Class,
that's
yeah.
yeah, you had to know
I
all
was
that.
very much protected. I couldn't, not even in a way that it was understandable. It probably would have looked like I was limited, but I was actually being protected.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, well, you were very fortunate then in that.
I was so fortunate. I was
Yeah.
so fortunate. Yeah. My
So
mother used to pray around us as well. My mother's influence. Well, anyway, I'll speak about my mother in a minute. Sorry, go on, David. Yeah.
I think I've covered that one there.
Mm.
Things are moving on now with regards to the cosmic clock. Wow,
Yes.
that's pretty interesting. Have
Shall I
you?
share this picture that
Go
you
for
sent? Like, this is really cool. I showed my daughter, and she's like, "Oh," I was like, "Yeah." Okay. So, okay, let me just share for a second this one. This is what I call the rose, right? And it's called here. You call it the lotus of life. So,
Yeah,
what is this? The beginning pattern of consciousness? Is that what we
yeah.
say?
Hold that up there because that's how all of our worlds are created. Not
Mm-hmm.
the one on the right. The one on the right is a false light.
Yes.
It's finite. It's not connected to the center. So we can dismiss that. The one on
Yeah.
the left, every single circle, and there are 12
Mm.
circles, every single circle is connected at the center.
12 circles. Okay.
And the reason that they're connected at the center is because that's a unity consciousness, and that's why, and that is how they connect to the eternal source of energy, which is in the heart of all things. And so
Mm.
that's how we connect together as one through that commonality, the union of our souls with the energetic power of the center.
Wow.
And from that, you can get the lotus petals. The lotus petals
Okay.
you can see are in there anyway. So that's,
Okay.
yeah. So if you
Beautiful.
can you
Yeah.
get the other one?
Yeah, I'll get the clock. We're getting there, David. We are progressing nicely as humans. We can share photos.
Right.
Okay, this is the clock. Wow. Okay, this is gorgeous.
Okay.
Mhm.
Now, the title there is Probable Selves and Soul Family Cells, but you can dismiss that. That is a whole program on itself. We have actually covered a tiny bit of it. But if you look at the top left circle, that's the same as the flower of life,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now, that corresponds to what we would call the Akasha Aya universe of existence. And it is just so ginormously massive. It is incomprehensibly huge. And I can't even give you the words. We don't have the words
Mm-hmm.
to express it. It is just way vaster than any NASA picture of space that they can show you. So that
Okay.
is an Akasha Aya realm, which is just on the very doorstep of pure consciousness of God source, the living presence.
Mm-hmm.
And this is into which we first downstep as a stream of consciousness. So if you
Mm-hmm.
move to the um, circle on the right, right beside it, you'll see a secondary circle within it. Now, that is one of 12 probabilities. That's 12 universes that exist within the Akasha Aya. So each of those Akasha Ayas has 12 universes within it. And that secondary circle that you can see there is a probable universe. It's one of the 12.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have 12 different universes in the Akasha Aya. And in that Akasha A beside it, that is one of those universes. And there are 12 of those. And if you come down to the one on the left, at the bottom left, you will see yet another smaller circle. And that is the Akasha universe, which is within the Akasha A universe, which is within the Akasha Aya universe. They're all wheels within wheels within wheels.
Mm-hmm.
So now move to the right. And that shows you the tiniest circle there is your Eka Veka universe, which is operating within the Akasha universe, within the Akasha A, within the Akasha Aya. It's all of these spheres of existence within spheres of existence. It's incomprehensible how enormous
Mm-hmm.
this structure is. So let's look at that one on the right with the tiniest circle, the Eka Veka. I wonder where we might be. Well, we are in that tiniest circle. And if we could see it, we can't see it now. I could show you a picture. I sent you
Mm-hmm.
another picture, which we might be able to see of a blue structure. But that
Mm-hmm.
tiniest circle there, at the bottom of that tiny circle, exists a Vecca universe of 12 dimensions. And in that 12-dimensional universe, it's so small you can't see it. But we exist as Earth, which is signet number 3 of that 12th dimensional universe, which is at the bottom of that tiny, tiny circle. You can't see it and you can't see us because we are so infinitesimal. And yet, that is where we are. And we are a part of that Eka-Veka universe, which is a part of the Akasha universe, which is a part of the Akasha A universe, which is a part of the Akasha A universe, which is a part of the Unisi universe. So everything is connected. As you said, it is all happening in the same space and time. So if you can imagine that there are 12 of these probable universes all spinning in alternative directions. So the Akasha A spins to the right, to clockwise, the Akasha A.
Okay.
But behind it, you can't see it, is a parallel universe which is spinning counterclockwise. And that is what's happening with every single universe. They are all perpetually moving in either clockwise or anti-clockwise direction. And that happens with us too, because our universe, our Earth here, has a parallel Earth beside it. And we operate at counterclockwise motion, and the parallel universe operates at clockwise movement. And they are all connected energetically.
Okay, I have some questions that are going to be so simplistic, they'll either make perfect sense or they'll just fall on the floor, and that's okay. So you have spoken to me about that before. This is actually one of the first things that really intrigued me because I was wondering why it was so hard for men and women to speak. It was just ridiculous. The amount of like self-help books there are to teach women how to speak to men. It's just so strange. It's like, why do we have to learn how to speak to men? That doesn't make sense, you know? But it was needed. There was this frequency shield, this frequency block to stop this understanding. Like it was a minefield of misunderstanding. So when you said that I said, well, I wonder where we out of tune, and you said we were out of tune. So are you saying so that universe, that parallel universe, is running clockwise? We're running anti-clockwise. This is a feminine universe, and that's a masculine universe, and that's ahead of us in linear time. Is that right?
Yeah, they operate at a slightly different frequency resonance, which gives the impression of operating at a different time. In fact, the masculine antiparticle electric parallel universe, which is still a part of us, which is still connected to us intrinsically, operates counterclockwise. It's moving counterclockwise as we move counter. It's moving clockwise. Move counterclockwise. All right.
Yeah.
The same as we are essentially magnetic, as that is essentially electric. It doesn't mean that there's no magnetism there, no electricity here. It just means that that is the primal energetic quotient for each one.
Yeah.
And that combination complements together as one. So as you go that way with one, the other one's going the other way, they're standing in the same place. If they both went the same thing, they disappear off the screen.
Gotcha.
So they're operating like that, and that is the protocol of universal manifestation throughout all of the holographic realms. But there are so many things that you could talk about here. For example, the masculine are parallel, which has been operating 8 years ahead of us. So in 1992, as I think I told you, that universe, our masculine universe, parallel universe, fell to the one world order. In our case, that was 1984. We were operating 1984, slightly behind them, but in 1992, at the same moment in space-time, they had fallen into the one world order, and we were going to be next. All right, and this was in 1984, and of course, Hollywood gave us a notice about that in the Terminator films, which is to do with exactly that outpicturing. So what was so incredibly, and this will play into your connection, the communication between masculine and female, masculine and feminine. What was the reason for the one world order being set up on the electrical masculine universe first? Well, they have to take out the masculine first. The masculine holds 60% of its spiritual essence in the masculine universe, the masculine parallel earth. And
Oh.
masculine on our magnetic earth, the feminine earth here, particum
Mhm.
earth, the males hold 40% of spiritual essence.
Mhm.
So there's 40% here, 60%
Mhm.
in the parallel, right? So
Yeah.
what about the feminine here? Well, the feminine here is extremely powerful because it's
Mhm.
magnetic, it's sound, and it's vibration, and it is 60%. So all the females of all the life force, all the life fields on Earth, hold 60% of their spiritual essence. And in the
Mhm.
parallel, it's 40%. So there's a complete reversal. So if they could
Yeah.
take out for the one world order all the masculines with their 60% spiritual essence,
Mhm.
they would have a free pass to get into here because we wouldn't be able to protect them. The
Mhm.
masculine wouldn't be, because the masculines are the expression of God's source, and we're meant to be protecting and supporting and structuring
Mhm.
our relationship with the feminine. And the
Mhm.
feminine's purpose is to constantly remind and energize the
Yeah.
masculine's spirit essence. Remind him who he is. That's the primal.
The constant call to pattern, call to
Yeah,
order, call to pattern. Yeah.
yeah. But
Yeah.
so they took out the parallel in
Mhm.
92 and they came here. In fact, the outpicturing we've had since 2000 AD, 2001, particularly at 9/11,
Mhm.
was the war to create the one world order, now known as the New World Order, right here on this earth, this feminine matter earth.
Mhm.
Once they'd effectively controlled the parallel.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, shall I just finish this now? It,
Sure. Yeah.
yeah, I don't want to hog the conversation too much, but
No. Yeah.
this is important.
Mhm.
A lot of people, when they talk to me, say, "Yeah, but Dave, I can't see that parallel universe. Where is it? Is it spinning
Mhm.
around over there somewhere?"
Mhm.
And the thing is, while you can see my hand and my face here, and you can touch your own
Mhm.
hand and your own face, all right, in the 3D world that we exist in, we also
Mhm.
live in an etheric universe, which is running at a different frequency resonance. So everything that is etheric, for example, you have a spirit, and I know you believe this, but you can't see it, can you? But that's because it's running at a different frequency resonance, but it is right
Mhm.
here with you. All right. And as we expand our consciousness, we come to terms with this realization that we are more than just this hand and body.
Mhm.
So the etheric realms exist right here at the same time. So the parallel earth realm is right here. It's right here beside us, operating
Mhm.
in an etheric sense. Okay.
Yeah.
The way that you communicate with it is through the spirit, the psychic
Mhm.
aspects, the feeling, the
Mhm.
instinct mind of the emotional
Mhm.
body. And that's what your work does so brilliantly, and bringing
Mhm.
us all together. And the last thing I wanted to say is that
Yeah.
in these last few decades, what has happened is that the frequency of eternal energies has been flowing
Mhm.
through our grids so that we are expanding consciousness. Um,
Mhm.
and using the expertise and the experiences of people like yourself, Mary, to be able
Mhm.
to help other people to expand and to see more and to feel the frequency flows traveling through
Mhm.
all of their own personal grids so that we
Mhm.
expand and we see more, we feel more, we know more, and we become more aligned with
Mhm.
our own identity together as one.
Yeah. This is really interesting. So, okay, so when we're speaking about all the different ways it's set up, right? All the different ways it's set up, that the all the different universes are set up, and how I can't see that. But what I'm wondering, because my intention is so particular, um, it's to it's like you said, the feminine is always trying to, the mother is always trying to restore order or restore the pattern. or,
This is
make
true.
sure the intention, the core, the pattern is honored. And so then because we want multiplication. So I'm just wondering, okay, I understand there's deviation and then there's multiplication. I want multiplication. I don't want deviation. That's what I wanted to say. And I don't know where that fits in with how things are now. But so what we are doing right now and what is on our hearts as the women to do, and because we keep getting, we're getting the rising impulses, we're getting our information direct from, you know, whether it's we have, I want to speak about the grandmothers. I want to explain the women a little bit more, right? What are kind of like what we're being told to do right now, what's kind of happening.
Okay.
So, and it just has to come as it comes, right? So a few years ago, I was somewhere and I asked, I had 12 crystals. I had a necklace full of crystals and it broke, and there just happened to be 12 single. And I said, there's going to be 12, and there was. And I went to my friend and I said, what was the clock before the clock? And he didn't really know what I was saying, so that was fine. So I left him and I went off and I put these 12 crystals in a circle. So I guess in my magnetic impulse, I was going to call in the answer, what was the clock, the answer to my question, what was the clock before the clock? So when we're working from the consciousness of the womb, so the womb has the imprint, the water memory of everything, but we don't necessarily have we don't have the perfect details, but we have the space where it's supposed to be. So when we feel this lack, we see the distortion in the clock system, in the system of time management placed upon us. And everything is so personal with women because, time is the enslavement of the womb. It's not, we know this, we feel this, and we also have all lived with, like you said, the men's allegiance has often been, because of the programming, and has always been to this clock system, this time management system, which is an overriding of nature's time, which is what we can't get away from because we have wounds, and our wounds run on nature's time. So the primary allegiance for women never, as much as people we try to be men all the time, right? But it never really works, right? Because we have a womb, and then especially if you start having children, the nature's clock is all that matters, right? Because of the way the way our bodies are. So we have felt the enslavement that time management, the false clock, has created, and we've also felt how it pulls the body of men away from what we believe is true time, which is nature's time. This is just the women I'm working with, right? This is we're conscious of it. So anyway, I asked the question, what was the clock before the clock? And I was sent on lots of different lots of different things came. And I did see Stonehenge as and we were going to talk about Stonehenge the last time. I saw Stonehenge as somehow some very central piece of the clock mechanics on the earth that was used, right? Because whoever can control set up these mechanics on, like physical mechanics, can send through their intention, right? Anyway, I work in my rebirthing of the consciousness within the womb, in my rebirthing of the principles that have been messed with and tampered with, the deviations, because I don't want deviation, right? I want multiplication of the original pattern, that rose lotus pattern. Because I want cohesion, I want us all to be together as one. I want the holding pattern of integrity and love covering everything. So I traveled in my capacity as Golden Mother Dragon, which has this magnetic weaving ability. And I placed a golden egg in Stonehenge, actually,
Yeah.
etherically. So, okay, what came? Then fast forward a couple of years later, I traveled again to this place where I had placed the 12 crystals, and I stood there and I received these 12 crystals. It became like a 12-piece clear quartz crystal crown on my head.
Wow.
That was that. And there's more. And then I saw this streaming, spiraling thing in the sky, and I was like, okay, come here, please come here. And because I was, I obviously was there to receive this, and it connected with me, and I was shown in that. This wasn't that long ago. There were 12 crystalline grandmothers keeping the space, keeping the pattern of space time reality. And it was the sound tone, the beginning sound tone came from this aquiline sun, right, of the mother. But it came down in these 12 strands, each one held by, and I saw them like as crystalline grandmothers. And they began the rose spin, or you would say the lotus spin, the weaving of these 12 crystal strands into my body, into us. It's for, I was told this is the song lines of your DNA. This is the coding of your DNA, of your destiny timeline, and that's what the clock is. It's this. So the space. There's more to this as well. The space is held in this sound intention, and the integrity of it is guaranteed because it streams through our bodies. So we are being programmed with this tone of all space, and this is a living, breathing pattern, like the rose, the lotus, that is to gather all space into one. And then what I was shown is that the clock, the hand of the direction of time, the center point of the clock, and this came when I rebirthed the sun. It was the sun, the impulse. Okay, so what it is outside of us is the sun, the golden sun, full golden sun. What it is inside of us is the impulse of the heart. So the eternal now moment, the clock, the correct clock that our body clock already is, the celestial of that is this streaming song consciousness, this symphony woven into a rose pattern by the grandmothers. The origin, the source of it is the eternal mother of the aquiline sun. That's the first like sound emanation of the womb and of our beginning. And the center point in the celestial, it's the sun. Maybe people call that the grand central sun. I don't know. I just see it as a big golden ball, right? It's these electrics brought to order. The electrics are brought back to order into this one streaming source. It's like a big golden spool of thread. And the portal of that is this cross star portal of the heart. So this is the center of the clock. So this would be the father. And it is the pulse of this which sets the beat of time. And this is how we live within the eternal now and create reality, gather all space into one, and bring all time into now. So
the now and forever moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get that, and yeah, that was a very complex experience that you had there, to actually manifest that into your frequency field, so you could
Yeah.
you could connect with it. The thing about people often do ask me about time, especially because I talk about 950 billion years and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
Which can be very confusing, but in fact, time doesn't really exist. It's a construct. The thing that time doesn't really move, what really moves is consciousness. So, for example, when we were first manifested here a few million years ago, the purpose of us was to collect all our fragments together and to ascend back slowly through all that we are, so that we became our final divine essence. All right. So that's the real purpose. So back in those days when things were perfect, pretty much, we were living in a golden age. We would acquire all the frequencies of dimensions 1, 2, and 3 by the time we were 12. By the
Mhm.
time we were 22 or 21, 22, we would have acquired all the frequencies of dimensions 4, 5, 6. By the time we were
Mhm.
33, 7, 8, 9, and by the time we were 44, 10, 11, 12. So we would have
Mhm.
all of our dimensional frequencies of this time matrix, this matter matrix, within us, and we would be 44 years old. There would
Mhm.
be that we wouldn't age. There'd be no health problems, of course. Everything was just perfect.
Yeah.
And we could then choose whether we wish to live for another 1,000 or 10,000 years in that
Mm.
44-year space, or ascend into the higher dimensional realms. That was a
Mm.
free will choice. That's the way that it was supposed to be. As it
Mm.
happens, of course, things got shifted. So
Mm.
what was really changing was not so much the time, but
Mm.
so consciousness is really what is moving all the time. And we look
Yeah.
back and we think, oh, crikey, I had more hair then and it was all dark. Um, that's the function of time. Well, there you are, mate. You're just getting old.
Mm.
But what that really is the function of the exchange of consciousness, the manifestation of
Mm.
consciousness. If I can go back now, just very quickly, to the
Mhm.
cosmic clock. Now, it is a construct upon which consciousness may form and
Mhm.
expand. It's contraction and expansion. So you were talking about you wanted multiplication. Well,
Mm.
divine purpose and the divine protocol actually for expansion of consciousness is expansion of all things. So
Mm.
energy expands, it accretes on top of itself. So 2 becomes 4,
Mhm.
4 becomes 8, 8 becomes 16,
Mhm.
16 becomes 32. You get it?
Yeah.
But in the distorted universe, that doesn't
Mhm.
happen. It becomes a contracting
Mm. Yeah.
it, what happens is that you consume the previous quantum. So to get to 13, 8 has to consume 5. And then
Yeah.
to get to 21, 13 has to consume 8 to make. So
Mhm.
it might seem a very small point, but what you were talking about, multiplication,
Mm.
is the stream of energy that the whole universe is designed to operate upon. So
Mhm.
you're right about that for sure.
Mm.
Let's just look at the cosmic clock because I've mentioned it and you've mentioned it. So
Yeah.
we can remember that first golden circle with all the 12 circles contained connected in the center, right? That first one.
Mhm. Yeah.
That is the Akasha Aya. That's a huge
Mhm.
universe upon which all of our universes.
I'll put it up again for a sec. Yeah.
Yeah, you're
Because
getting
it's
it.
beautiful. Yeah, it's really beautiful. Just that first one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So what happens there? That is actually moving. The consciousness of that
Mm.
whole universe is moving. It's moving clockwise, and it
Mhm.
takes, for example, if we look at time, we insert time to give us some sense of scale. We're really talking about consciousness. So
Yeah.
it has 4 quadrants and all 4 quadrants is 360 degrees. So in other words,
Mhm.
when you have gone through the 4 quadrants, there to there to there to there, 3, 6, 9, and then 12,
Mhm.
you have covered 360 degrees. Your whole Akasha Air universe has completed one revolution of consciousness, conscious
Mhm.
awareness of self. All right. You might be interested to know that takes each quadrant takes 317 billion years to go by.
Okay.
There are 4 of them, so we're talking a long time.
Yeah.
But really, what we're talking about
Mhm.
is consciousness. Consciousness
Mhm.
is given an opportunity over a period of what we call time to
Mhm.
expand itself. All right. And then the
Mhm.
next universe, which is contained within it, because the Akasha A, that
Mhm.
actually is moving, consciousness is moving faster. All right.
Mhm.
And that means that the beings that are existing in consciousness in that Akasha A universe are actually they're not as old, all right, because their life passage of consciousness is going quicker, because theirs takes approximately 180 billion years to be able to go round one quadrant. And then you come to the next one, and that one is operating, consciousness is expanding at a faster rate, all right? And so consequently, that takes 26 billion years to do a quadrant turn of the clock, all right? So that it comes to us, and we, in our universe, we take approximately 2 million years to make one quadrant turn. All right. So we are going much faster than the huge within which we sit. Their consciousness remains almost static, but it's not. It's actually moving. But that's why beings in that Akasha Aya universe seem to be living for astronomical periods of time, while we down here, we're going really quick, all right? Because consciousness is expanding or contracting much faster. So, what has happened over the last few years, the last few million years, of course, we've had lots and lots of lifetimes, and they've been spinning through the zodiac, the calendar of time, very, very quickly. But also, the calendar of time has been fixed by certain beings who wanted, and this is what you alluded to so accurately, they wanted us to be tied to a calendar of time and event and action which was controlled by them, not by God source and by our own celestial divine nature, but by the mundane survival mechanisms of primordial debt, original sin, all of these things, so that we would be tied into a trapped universe, which is what has been happening.
Yeah. And what I'm shown now, and I would love to speak about what's next, what we feel is next. And I was shown truly the way out of this is from the inside out. Because, well,
I agree.
I say it like that, like it's a small thing, but I am also aware that, if I do something with intention, I can see I see it coming back to me in the field the next day, or within a short, so I am understanding that this understanding that the whole universe is in one drop, and if I can just get the drop right,
You are so
I can touch the rest. Yeah.
Mary, I totally agree with that. It's so beautiful, and I agree with you. In fact, I remember reading somewhere that the answer is just what you've just said, and it goes like this. It goes, the only way out of confusion is the only way in to truth, and it's
Yeah.
the only way out is the only way in, and it's you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, you're so right. That's a very astute comment there, and that
Yeah.
encapsulates really your work, does it not? This is
Yeah.
what you are here for.
Yeah. It's like, the eye of the needle, right?
Yeah,
So it's, and it's like once the beginning formation pattern, the pattern is okay. There's so much freedom in that, because then you just breathe and everything, expands and multiplies as intended. We have, we have, there's been, there has been, there has been battles, if you want to say battles, to stop, to stop the interference. And some of these, figureheads, these phantom figureheads, maybe born from the black sun, born in the subconscious seedbed when we weren't aware of our own seedbed. We didn't have our own access to our own subconscious. Like when I was a child, I saw the sound. I could almost see the sound waves going into my brother. I could feel there was something going into his ear that didn't belong. I knew it. And I used to speak to I used to kiss him on the top of his head, where I now know the sound waves of mother go in.
wow.
And I used to think to myself in my own child way, if I just kiss his head every day, he'll stop hearing the other sound, whatever it is. And I used to try to speak to him when he was asleep to say,
Wow.
just listen to me, listen to your mother, like our actual mother, and
Yeah.
behave yourself. And I used to try to reprogram him, but he
Oh,
was getting bombarded with interference. But all of these like personal ways of feeling, mostly observational, like I was very protected. There was a few moments where, lapses of protections, but God bless my parents. They're just like firehouses, you know what I mean? Their energy
amazing.
was pure fire. But there was a couple of lapses, but in general, it was more, I was observing what was happening and taking my notes, right? But so there has been, the intention behind the intention always, higher intention always comes from pain, right? Comes from
Yeah.
sadness or lack, right? Otherwise we wouldn't do anything. And the intention to ensure the core tone, which, calling through this tone of the aquiline womb, and then you returning the magnetics of myself to begin with, and then I introduced this to other women, returning the magnetic center of myself to pure gold, and to ensure then that that would contain, because we have, like I said, we have been adapted, and we have been bred through the adaptation, so the adaptations have been bred into us, and we saw that our center was actually primed to feed that black sun baby, which isn't a baby at all. It's the shadow, it's the subconscious, those compulsions. We were primed to actually nurture um, the product of the black sun, which
Yeah.
is actually subconscious. It's a constant feeling of threat in the what you would call intuition. So our intuition was used against us also to perceive threat, but also the people around us had these energies of you'd say narcissism, this kind of endless feeding.
Yeah.
And this had particularly happened to the women when we entered motherhood, because when we had an actual baby, when we got pregnant, we would find these black sun energies erupting in the people around us,
Wow.
because there was a jealousy of this. Because when a woman has a child, you're golden, you're radiating, and there's
Yeah.
this golden glow around the mother and the child. It's beautiful. It's incredible. And it could be there as well for anyone else who wants to be involved. But for some reason, we found that this provoked that black sun pulling, this false magnetic wanting to pull away from the mother and child. And we are all child of the mother. So this isn't about a mother and a child. This is about we are all the child.
Yeah.
And, I say we are choosing our mother and who we are to her. We're coming from being the narcissistic child, which is something we have had to be, especially if we hadn't had access to this feeling of that, that symbiotic, unified belonging, to coming to the consciousness that we are the golden child. And the correction had to take place within the mother, because otherwise, how could the child ever correct? So that's what's been happening.
Wow. That's
Mm,
you have come. You've said so many
yeah.
very insightful things here, and made some very
Mm,
pivotal comments too.
mm.
Actually, I've learned such a lot just listening to you about things that I really didn't know, and I've been trying
Mm,
to put my own perspective upon them,
yeah.
because I come from a different space, but
Mm,
essentially it's the same space, just from a different area of it, if you see what I mean.
yeah.
So I've
Yeah.
learned such a lot just listening to
So
you.
this is why these conversations are so relevant, and how we are now in the free sea. We are in, I'll make my grand announcements. We are in the free sea. We are in the free womb. And we are coming back to the consciousness of what it means to be a blessed child, each one of us, what it means to be a blessed, free child. And with the will of a child. Children have such strong will,
Yeah.
nothing can stop them. And the impulse, like you say, we were tied to false time, to be, funneled, have our creational energy funneled, and wind up depleted at the end of it all, and nothing ever builds, right? And now we're coming back to this, knowing that the body clock is dictated by the heart, the impulse of the heart, in
Yes.
attunement. And we spoke about this. We've come a long way, David, because we really have, because we spoke about attunement, and now we took care of attunement. And this was when I was saying the masculine principle is to come into attunement with the song. This, all of us, this is within all of us, all of our water, which is the feminine part of us, had to receive this tune, this crystalline song, or let's say receive the healing of our own DNA, which is our song. The
Yes.
like it's already there, right? But
Yeah.
the grandmothers, absolutely give them credit. They do their job, right? They're here with intention. But
They've
it's
done
like,
so. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, like the intuition, the intention is in there, in the water, singing itself to us, and it is overriding that false voice, like that was in my brother's ear.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
louder now. It's the loudest. The inner voice is louder than the other stuff,
Yeah.
and then the impulse of the heart, which is the alignment we must choose, is louder is than the subconscious, self-sabotaging, chaotic compulsions of demands of shadow. So we can choose to have command over the free sea from our heart, or to use shadow to demand. But the demands aren't, what I'm trying to say is that the womb, the mother, has changed. The womb, the correction of the mother has corrected the womb.
Yes.
So what I'm trying to say is that narcissism doesn't pay. Greed, the nasty thing that we have had to do. We've all had to do all the different things. Victimhood, perhaps, and I'm not trying to, people went through pain, but I mean, we have had magnetic ways of generating, and of getting what we need. We have had false magnetic ways of gathering what we need as children,
Yeah.
as adults, with the needs of a child, the needs of provision. So we have worked with perhaps manipulation, force, aggression, um, role playing, which is a big one for women, just kind of being quiet to, fit
Yeah.
in and things like that. So what I'm trying to say is all those things aren't working anymore. So it's not about judgment or morality. It's about, if you change the surround, if you change the tone of the surrounding, then um, those of us, we learn the new way. We're learning the new way of this paradigm, and it is making us evolve
Yeah. It's
without,
not.
yeah.
Yeah. It's not about right and wrong. Ultimately,
Mm,
it's about the search for truth, and
hmm.
and stepping into the unity of all that we are.
Yeah.
When you do that, you can only be doing so from the platform of absolute love. And
Mm,
so I endorse everything that you said there. And
mm,
that's why I do feel that there is such a shift coming. Of course, there are challenges in the changing of everything, um,
mm.
but basically, yeah, I agree with you that the energies are changing, and for the better, because we are now seeing ourselves as we truly are, and
Yeah.
coming to an awareness of our honest and true identity, and that can only come from a feeling of unity with everyone, that we are all connected
Yeah.
together.
And David, could I ask you, what do you see as next, or the next steps? What are you feeling? If you have anything.
Um, well, I keep getting told that, as we talked about earlier, that in the end, it always comes down to you,
Hmm.
because we are our own universe. Of course, I'm existing in a universe with you, Mary, and we're sharing.
Hmm.
And you exist with many other people with whom you are sharing. And so we are in a collective universe, but ultimately we create our own reality through our own universal perspective because we are our own universe. So I keep
Mhm.
getting told that the answer is you, Dave. And
Mhm.
Dave, if you have absolute love and you have an awareness of your own unity with everything else and your connection with them, and
Mhm.
your honest appraisal of what is true, then through that, the collective shifts. And so
Yeah.
I think that's what's happening now, Mary,
Mhm.
because there's so many people who have the same viewpoints now, the same angle of vision that you and I do. And that doesn't,
Yeah.
it's not to make us, special in any sense of that word,
Yeah.
but we are unique in all of us
Mhm.
coming together to share the truth of absolute love in unity together
Yeah.
as one. And that is making that is making the only difference that counts.
I agree. I agree. It's about, and it's witnessing the cohesion in real time. And like I say, I feel like we are walking through a living, breathing prophecy. I can, I'm astounded by the things that happen. We would have called them coincidences a few years ago, but now it's a choreographed dance. It's,
Yeah.
every moment, every day, every moment. If I choose to come back into my intuition and my heart, and it's become so intrinsic now that I only have to breathe with a loving intention. And the most magical things are happening, and the resonance is showing itself, and that which does not resonate is showing itself too, and it's just taking itself out of the way. There's the resistance, the defense, the um kind of over the top perception, like perceiving and figuring things out. That's not necessary anymore. It's just rational, or sorry, it's vibrational movement. It's like sonar. It's, again, I'm always trying to be a dolphin, right? Going back to this, like sonar, sending out the breath, the sound, and what comes. It's truly like fearless movement in a compassionate water system that wants to give me not just what I need, but also delight and magic. It's truly beautiful what's happening at the moment.
I think
Yeah,
that's
it's
such a
wonderful.
wonderful description you've just given. Um,
Yeah.
so, Mary, if would
Mhm.
you do you mind? The people I live with are anxious to come
Mhm.
into this room,
Gotcha.
and
Okay.
I wonder if you would allow me to just give them a chance to come in.
Of course.
Perhaps
Absolutely.
I wonder if perhaps you might consider inviting me again because I would love to come and share with you.
We only like scratched the surface, we just scratched the surface. That is so perfect, David. Thank you so much. I'm just going to share one picture that I have. That's all to end our meeting, because my brother sent this to me. So this is the brother that I spoke of, that I had to speak in his ear
Right? Yeah.
bring him to bring him back. Anyway, he has this beautiful ruby heart, and we have done this restoration of the Ruby Heart Network. And he came to my house the other day, and it was just a beautiful confirmation of everything that has been happening, arriving to me. Again, this is just one of these bubbles of delight that came to me, and he gave me this picture. So I just want to put up this picture because
Okay.
his art is always in tune with what's happening. Like he's there.
Right.
He's flying, but he's flying free in the heavens. His art is always in tune with what's happening.
He's
So I just
connected
want to do
to
that.
celestial spheres.
Let me just pop it up, and then we can just want to share it, because there's a lot of movement in that, right?
Wow. He
Mm.
created that, did he?
Yeah, he created that, and he has had this, the very strong crucifixion implant, of course.
Yes.
And this is, we're seeing this evolution, right? So he was drawing like crucifixion pictures, right?
Yeah.
And then he comes with this. So again, it's about he's always trying to call for the portal of the heart. This is what he has the heart of Christ, right? He has this beautiful ruby heart. And he's calling for the portal. We are all calling from behind overlays and overlays and overlays. We're calling from the purity to get it back to us. And this just show what I'm seeing with this is just it's coming back to a living breathing,
Yes.
you know? Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, what a long way he's come, and he's obviously been helped by having somebody kiss him on the head.
It must have oh my gosh, the things we do, David, when we can't, when we have no power, we just do our little bits, you know.
Well,
Okay.
look, thank you so much for inviting
Yeah.
me. I always enjoy talking with you, and
Yeah.
you
That was
enlighten me,
beautiful.
Mary. You really do. Thank you so
Thank you so much, David. I'm going to share this with you and I'm going to share it with everyone. And
much. Okay.
we are just scratching the surface, so we'll do it again. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much, David. Take care. Bye.
Bye.